Please welcome the director of Jack the Giant Slayer, Mr. Bryan Singer, and his cast, Eleanor Tomlinson, Stanley Tucci, and Nicholas Hoult.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hello. Nice to see you.
Hi, sir. Lovely to
Good to
meet
see
you.
Stanley,
Sarah, how are you?
I'll come across to you. Wow,
Evening.
Check.
that's a lot of people. Hi, guys.
Wow.
Welcome to London. Brian, now, whenever I read Jack and the Beanstalk when I was a kid, it was about 4 pages long, usually. So this is a bit of an extrapolation, would you say? And how did you manage to expand the fairy tale into this epic tale?
Well, I never really even liked the original story because it always was about a guy who climbed a beanstalk, went up there, stole a bunch of shit, and then came back and killed a giant. So I always felt sorry for the giant. So we basically wanted to have a story. If we were going to call it Jack the Giant Slayer, it was originally Killer Slayer. We should create a race of giants that we don't really have sympathy for. They're a threat to mankind, and then makes Jack a hero as he tries to save the girl and prevent the giants from destroying.
Okay. So was that a difficult process?
A long process. There was actually an original script. There was actually a script that existed before I signed on, and as I was in pre-production, I find it really wasn't working for me, so I called Chris McQuarrie, who wrote Usual Suspects for me and Valkyrie and a number of other things, and brought him on board to do a sort of a page one rewrite. And then I brought another writer friend of mine, Dan Studney, on board to continue writing through the production process. So it was some last-minute stuff, but I think it worked out real well.
Okay. And Eleanor, you play Princess Isabel. Who is Princess Isabel? It's a tough one to start off with.
Yeah, it is. But you know, she's not your conventional princess. She's feisty. She's independent. She's searching for an adventure, and she definitely gets one.
Can say that again. And Stanley, you are the dastardly Lord Roderick.
Yeah.
Who is he?
Well, he's dastardly.
Yeah.
He is the sort of archetypal villain, you know, that we know from fairy tales, that we know from myths, legends, and all that, and old movies. I won't pretend that I didn't steal a great deal of this performance from Basil Rathbone or Laurence Olivier and Richard III and all that, but it lends itself to it, and one of the reasons I was attracted to it was because it is you know, it's a classic fairy tale that we all love, but a dark retelling of that with a great sense of irony.
Absolutely. And Nicholas, you are Jack, the titular Jack.
Yeah.
Who is he?
He's kind of the unlikely hero of this story. He's a young farm boy, has been brought up feeling fairly useless, without a lot of prospects or opportunities in life, and then he gets swept up on this mission to save this princess who he's fallen for, and manages to kind of overcome a lot of fears and become a hero along the way.
And it very much revolves around the romance, the burgeoning romance between Isabel and Jack. And we've got a bunch of clips for you guys. And the first clip actually sets that one up. This is when you two first meet, the meet cute, if you will. Please roll the clip. So Brian, that's Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
You
who
were
does he play?
fantastic.
He plays Elmont, who's sort of a guardian knight who's charged with taking care of Isabel, and he kind of follows after her when she gets into trouble or tries to sneak away from the castle to go watch theater.
Yeah, the romance is between a princess and a farm boy. So it brought to mind for me Star Wars. Was that something that was in your mind when you were making this movie?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very aspirational. What's particularly fun about this version, though, is that the farm boy is trapped in his farm, and in a way, Isabel's trapped in her castle. And we see that as the movie unfolds in the beginning, a tremendous parallel between the two characters. Each has lost parents, and they kind of are somewhat destined to find each other. But it's definitely a classic tale.
Is that a note that you were given, Eleanor and Nicholas? You know, look for Star Wars, or did you base this on anything in particular?
Yeah, I mean, the characters are definitely not your normal heroes, and that was kind of what really interested me about the part. You know, she's strong and feisty, and there's a lovely scene at the beginning of the movie with her mother, and her mother says, you know, you must go off and have your own adventure in order to be a good queen, and Isabel kind of kind of loves that, and she wants to prove to her father that she's a very capable woman, and she doesn't need following around by guardians, even if they are Ewan McGregor. So, yeah.
And Nicholas, did you have Luke Skywalker in your mind when you were playing this, or who did you base it on?
There was a little bit of that kind of aspect, particularly with the relationship with Ewan as well. But I guess it was that thing whereby we both kind of make each other realize our full potential, and I make you see the prospects you have as being queen, and you help me become a man along the way. I know that Brian kind of tonally like Princess Bride as a reference for the film, so I watched that in the build-up, but didn't base my performance too much on that.
On Andre the Giant.
Did you have cast and crew screenings of any films that were influences?
I don't think so. I watched some films while I was making them because there's a theater at Soho Hotel where I was living, and so we watched Star Wars. We actually ran that for some of the crew. Actually, we did a few little screenings.
Okay. And so, Stanley, does that make Roderick Darth Vader in a strange way?
I suppose so.
Have you ever thought about that?
No, I didn't think about that, but now I'm
breathing
rethinking it, and I wish I'd changed my whole performance. I guess so. Yeah. I never really. Yeah.
Can you talk about Roderick's appearance, because he has very interesting teeth?
Yes.
You have
yes.
great teeth.
Not really.
He does not
but
have great teeth.
No, he has an exaggeration of my teeth, like an exaggerated, unhealthy version of my teeth. I
British
just seemed
teeth,
when
no.
we were. I actually brushed my teeth. It seemed to me that when we were, putting this together, for me sometimes it's very helpful to work from, the outside in and just look at your face, look at how you would change your face to make you feel like this person. So putting on a wig, we played around with the wig, we played around with the beard, and it seemed to me that these teeth made sense. And we asked Brian if he liked them, and he was like, "Yeah, I love the teeth. Yeah, great." So that was nice. And then once you put it all on in the morning,
I would just simply say, Stanley, let the teeth do the acting.
Yes, that's right. That's right. It was just teeth acting, And once you do that and you work on the accent a bit, you don't. It was all on the page too. It was very clear who this person was, and so it was really kind of. It just all made sense. It wasn't, but I like the idea of those teeth and all that.
Yeah, it's great when actors bring a haircut or bring something physical to the equation. And also it's a different look. You're a master disguiser from movie to movie to movie, and you always find a different look and have a different character. So this was really.
Yeah, and I was very excited that you cast me. I told you this, but that you cast me in this because I'd always wanted to play the British baddie, and it was really fun. And then you used the teeth thing later. You at the. Oh, I didn't. Oh no, you didn't.
No.
Wait and see. Brian,
So sorry. I gotta go.
Can you talk about the casting process? Because you came this close to directing Nicholas on X-Men First Class.
Yeah, I was instrumental in the casting of Nick. I've been a fan of Nick since Skins and A Single Man, and was part of the casting process for X-Men First Class, which I produced. So then I got to know him on that and just observe his style of acting and his temperament and his personality. He's a really great guy. So I really wanted him to be the lead of this movie, but I wanted to be sure, so I saw a lot of people. And eventually he rose up to be the best and also the rightest for the role. And then Eleanor came in and ultimately, read beautifully and was beautiful, is beautiful, but also had great chemistry with Nick in what we call chemistry reads. We had them read together. And
which doesn't involve Bunsen burners or periodic tables, none of that stuff. It's just, okay.
No, you don't have to know anything. I get it.
There you go.
There you go.
So, and then Stanley and Ewan are two actors I've always wanted to work with and I've been a fan of for years. And Bill Nye plays one of the giants, and he's an actor I've worked with previously on the movie Valkyrie. So yeah, it was
Ian McShane as well.
Ian McShane,
Ralph
I
Brown.
actually knew through mutual friends, and I looked at him for Valkyrie, couldn't find something for him in that picture, so it was nice to be able to get him on board this one.
And on the trailer and little bits during the film, you can hear the voice of Sarah McKellen.
We use his voice. Well, yes, I used his voice for something.
Okay.
So.
It's just a quick favor. Come on, do this for 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
you can't have a Jack and the Giant movie without a beanstalk. So we're going to see the beanstalk now in this next clip. I don't know if you want to... actually, this is post-beanstalk, but this is the scene where after the beanstalk has appeared and spirited Jack's house away. I don't know if you want to set it up.
Oh yeah, it's when the princess. I don't know. We'll see what it is.
We'll see what it is.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's the... roll the clip. There we go. Told you to see a beanstalk. So when you're putting a film like this together, how much did you think about the beanstalk in terms of how high it was, the dimensions of it, and
I imagine it to be about 5 miles high.
5 miles high?
It's an improbable thing physically, but at least for it to have enough at its base for it to create the illusion of some kind of support system. But it had to go way up into the clouds, so there'd be some mystery in the journey as to what's up there.
How much of it did you actually build? I know a lot of it's CG, but...
We built a fair amount of the base structure at a location out in the countryside.
Okay. And there are scenes where all three of you were on the beanstalk at some point, climbing up it or climbing down it. How much of it was there at the time? And how much of the movie was there? Because I know that a lot of it was green screen.
There was a fair bit of it built in Elstree Studios.
Yeah.
And we'd be kind of 40, 50 foot up in the air, clinging on for dear life, whilst these air cannons and rain machines would lash us with rain, and you couldn't hear a thing.
Yeah, because we had to call your...
So we'd have a microphone system, and you just hear like Nick and line, and you panic and say something, and then the scene would carry on, and you'd hope for the best.
Yeah. And you were harnessed in. You're in all your costume, which was not necessarily made it easy to climb, but you're harnessed in so you don't fall. And each one of us had a stunt person that was to look after us in case we fell. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, was it fun? Not really. But the end product is so astounding that you do it again.
Yeah. And Eleanor, how was that?
Yeah, it was brilliant. I mean, try doing a kissing scene on a beanstalk. It's pretty challenging. It was amazing kind of training for the movie because I wanted to be able to tackle any stunt that Isabel comes across. I think that's kind of the key part of her character is the adventurer in her. So, yeah.
How important, Brian, was it for you to surround the actors with a sense of scale and a sense of being dwarfed?
I wanted to use as much physical stuff as we could, but when it came to the Land of the Giants, the Giants are about 25, 30 feet tall, so to build sets around them was not possible. So a lot of that stuff is virtual. So what we did was there was a lot of big giant props around that made it kind of fun. And then we used a system called Simulcam, which projects the captured performance of the Giants into my monitor, as well as some of the crude rendering, as well as some of the set extensions, so that the actors, they're acting to tennis balls on long sticks. Mm-hmm. But if they want to know what the environment's really going to be like, they can come around to the monitor and look at playback and actually see themselves acting out a scene with an unfinished giant.
Could you have the Giants and the actors in the room at the same time?
The only time we did that was when we did the performance capture in the beginning of the process. They would all come in and kind of act the scene with, and be next to the actors playing the Giants who are doing the full facial capture.
Okay.
And it's very funny to watch because Ewan's rolling around and you're going, I'm
pretending to climb.
But it's good because that means they know what we were going for on the mocap stage.
Yeah.
So then when the Giants aren't there on the day, they have that memory.
Because you may not remember this, but the last time I saw you, you were in prep in this movie, and you showed me a little bit of test footage on your phone of Bill Nighy chasing after Nicholas and Eleanor on a cardboard set. Was that something that you needed at the time to get a sense of scale and a sense of where people would be? And
yeah.
Yeah.
No, we did another funny thing for scale. We were scouting Norwich Cathedral where we shot the throne room scene, which happens at the end, and I wanted to see what a giant would look like in there. So while these 5 old ladies were getting a tour of the history of this lovely special place, we inflated a giant behind them, and it was like and stuff. So.
And Stanley, what was that like? Because we're about to see a clip where Roderick, who's now assumed control of the Giants, is talking to the giants. What was that like? Because I imagine there was nobody in the room, it was just surrounded by green screen. Is that a strange experience for an actor, or is that the ultimate freedom as an actor?
Well, it's kind of both in a weird way. I mean, you're very restricted because you have to look in a very specific place, and you're really looking at, as Brian said, a guy holding a pole with a tennis ball on top of it. And yet at the same time, you can be very free because it's a larger-than-life film, and the characters are larger than life. But Brian was really good about bringing us back and showing us where we were going to be in relation to the final product. Although only Brian really could envision that final product. I was incapable of it. But ultimately, those scenes are great. They're really well written. They're really fun to do. But I think what you get in the end is this kind of amazing amalgam of live action and CGI, the likes of which I've never seen before.
So it's a real leap of faith as actors.
It is, and it's confusing. But Brian and the technical crew did their best to make it clear to someone with a mind like mine.
Well, I said that Roderick was dastardly, and he has taken control of the giants by this point. So let's take a look at the clip. So that was Bill Nighy there, with the two-headed giant.
Well, Bill Nye plays the main head and drives the motion of the body, and the second head is played by John Kassir, who you might know as the voice of the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah.
From that, and it was very funny on the mocap stage the way they acted, because Bill would walk around and then John would just sort of follow next to him. And the little head doesn't really talk very well.
Were they glued together, or were they sellotaped together, or how did you?
No, they walked next to each other because
just very close.
Yeah.
Only after work.
Let's get some questions now from you guys for any and all of the four. If you've anything at all, just put your hand in the air. We have roving microphones going round, and don't be shy, because shyness can kill. Anyone at all? There we go, over here in the second row.
Hi, this is for Brian. From a directing point of view, just wonder how you approach the 3D aspect, whether that actually changes sort of the way you actually look to direct, or whether that's a good thing or a bad thing from your point of view.
Well, I made the decision to shoot native stereo, which means to actually shoot it in 3D on the set, as opposed to post-dimensionalizing it. It does change your style a bit, or at least for me it did. I tended to use wider lenses. I limited certain camera movements that I know don't work so well in 3D. And also became very conscious of foreground. When you're setting up a 3D shot, it's almost like a stage play. The audience is normally in a movie used to paying attention to right, left, up, and down, but here you're paying attention to front and back. Your eyes has a chance to shift through space. So you want to create things in the foreground and the background to keep the eye entertained and keep the 3D interesting. So I took a lot of care with the 3D. I mean, people spend extra money to see a movie in 3D. They should get really good, carefully executed 3D.
This may seem like a strange follow-up, but does shooting in 3D affect your performances and how you interact with the camera?
Not the performances. There was something really clever that you did as well as that, though, which was the giant's POV.
Oh,
where
yeah.
you kind of moved the... You can explain it.
Well,
but it's very cool.
A phenomenon that happens is when you take 3D happens when two lenses are used to photograph side by side, and when you separate those two lenses, it makes more 3D. But the more 3D you're making something, the more miniature it looks. Peter Jackson, I believe, was doing experimentations with King Kong, making him 3D, and they found that it made him look like a miniature. And so we had to be careful with the giants to not make them too miniaturized or too 3D. But what we did is the giants have big heads and their eyes are further apart. So we thought it would be fun that whenever you're seeing the point of view of a giant, that we took the lenses and moved them apart and created what's called a larger interocular. And by doing that, it miniaturized the people. So there's some fun beats. One where Stanley is cowering in the point of view of the giant, and he's like really mini. And it makes them look like fake, like little toy people.
Yeah.
So we did that a couple times in the movie, and it's really fun. It's something that hasn't really been done in 3D movies before.
Fantastic. I want to ask again about Bill Nighy, because in the film he seems to have an accent that hints at the Giant's Causeway and Northern Ireland, and was that a deliberate thing on his part?
I think that was Bill brought that I suspect it was an accent that he'd wanted to use in a movie. He had it in the back of his mind, and I think he was like, I think I'll use it here. And he did something else with his voice to get his voice really raspy. He would, before shooting every day, he would lock himself in his car, roll up all the windows, and scream for 20 minutes, and blow his voice out. So it'd be like, I can't do it.
So Stanley, your process was the teeth. Eleanor, what was your process?
Wow, man, that's competition, isn't it?
Well, you used to scream at me for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I did.
We would all just stand around screaming in different corners on set.
And Brian, was the appeal of this movie, because you've done big movies in the past, but was the appeal of this to do something that was on an epic scale and family friendly as well, I guess?
Yeah, this is the movie I've made that's probably most geared towards families and kids. It reminded me a lot of the adventure movies I saw when I was a kid, the Ray Harryhausen movies, Clash of the Titans, things like that, Journey to the Center of the Earth, 20,000 Leagues. It was one of those like adventure movies. And I also wanted to bring a tone that was much more lighter and funnier because I knew a lot of people were going to get eaten and stepped on by giants, and I didn't want kids to go out of the theater being upset. Scared is fine, upset is not so fine.
There's quite a lot of stomping by giants, I have to say. And you mentioned Peter Jackson there, and I think the last thing you shot for this film was, a few weeks ago? Down in New Zealand, is that correct?
Yeah, I went down to New Zealand to shoot one little extra scene. Since he wasn't using his equipment, they were taking a break from The Hobbit, I borrowed the cameras and his sets, and happened to be when the premiere of The Hobbit was there, so I happened to be able to go to that, which was cool. And then and Peter came to set barefoot to visit me on the pickup, and which you can do when you own the stage.
Were you guys down for that, or was that just Brian on his own?
No, I wish. Gosh, New Zealand?
Yeah, it's
And
fun.
Stanley, I just want to talk about, because you not only do you take inspiration from Basil Rathbone for your character, but you get to do a classic Basil Rathbone style sword fight
Yes.
with Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? And
Well, it was great. We rehearsed it. We started rehearsing it when we were prepping the film, when we were doing our training, horseback riding and, sword fighting and doing accents and working on accents and all that stuff. And we came up with this fight. We rehearsed it. We'd rehearse it, a few times a week as we were shooting. Then we got to the point we were going to shoot it. And then Brian came up with that. They came to us one day. They said, no, there's a different idea. And we were like, what are you talking about? We just rehearsed it for a long time. And Brian had this idea of Ewan's head going into the water, the knife having been thrown. I won't give it away, but a really, really cool idea that you've never seen in a movie before. And so we worked on that. The shoot of the fight took a couple of weeks to do, but ultimately I think it ends up working. It's always so interesting in a movie because the fight is really in reality quite short, but in the film it's extended, to be very dramatic.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I love doing stuff I personally love doing stuff like that, and doing it with Ewan, whom I love and whom I trust. It was great.
which is crucial, because Ewan was on Twitter yesterday saying that all the fighting was done by the two of you.
It was,
No,
with the exception of when at the very beginning there are some stunts that clearly we could not have done, and if Ewan says he did them, he's a liar.
Fair enough. And Nicholas and Brian, you're gearing up now to work together again on X-Men Days of Future Past. Can you tell us very briefly how that's going?
It's great. I'm really excited. The script is pretty great, and I start shooting mid-April in Montreal. It's got a great cast. All characters from X-Men First Class: Nick Holt, Jennifer Lawrence, James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, and then also other characters from the previous X-Men films. Hugh Jackman's in it. Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, Anna Paquin, Ellen Page, and others. So it's going to be a really big epic movie. It takes place in different times and has some new technology and things we haven't seen in previous X-Men films. So I'm very excited to get back into that world.
Nicholas, you gearing up for that?
Yeah,
Prosthetics again?
Yeah, the thing that's really exciting about it is because I grew up watching the previous X-Men films, to work with that cast it's going to feel like I'm really there on an X-Men film. It's going to be quite scary, walking past Hugh Jackman in the morning, going, Wolverine. So that's going to be very exciting. And also to work with Brian again, he's just got a real passion for film and is a great storyteller. So I'm looking forward to that because we have fun on set. So.
And Stanley and Eleanor, you're not in the X-Men movie?
No, oddly enough, we're not. And
Yeah.
actually,
Brian,
that's
I
why
never
we're
talked
here.
to you about that,
Not yet.
actually.
Not yet, no. But we're here to talk about that.
Yeah, we are.
What is next for you guys?
I think I'm just going to scream at Eleanor in a car somewhere. I don't know. I'm supposed to do a movie here called Your Voice in Your Head.
Okay.
Your Voice in My Head.
Uh-huh.
That's based on a memoir. So I'll probably be shooting that in May or June.
So the X-Men dates don't work anyway. So
No.
doesn't work out.
You know.
And Eleanor, what's next for you?
I have an Italian movie called Siberian Education being released. It's with John Malkovich.
Right.
That comes out in March, which I'm really excited about. It's a very different character. I'm playing a mentally challenged Russian girl and how she deals with gang culture in Siberia. So that was that was an amazing movie to be a part of. So really looking forward to that. And then seeing what Jack the Giant Slayer brings. Who knows?
Fantastic. Well, thanks guys for coming. Jack the Giant Slayer is out March 22nd, so do go and see that. Meantime, thanks for coming. Thanks for your question, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks most of all, Brian Singer, Eleanor Tomlinson, Stanley Tucci, and Nicholas Hoult. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.